Welcome to the Business of Thinking podcast. This is the place for high achievers who want more than motivation. They want mastery. Here we skip the surface level talk and go straight into the psychology of high performance.
Hi, and welcome to the Business of Thinking. My name is Richard Reed, and we often talk about sport as being a way that people build resilience and people grow. And today's guest is a prime example of that. I'm very delighted today to be joined by Aaron Burros, who is an ordained priest. Is that right?
Ordained minister.
Ordained minister. Okay. He's also a coach and an author. And just to start things off, Aaron, tell us a little bit about your background and how you arrived at the book and everything else that you've done in recent times. Because it's quite an in-depth and interesting story, isn't it?
Very much so. I was in sports early in coming up in my childhood, and was actually mentored and trained by my older brother to be a quarterback. And so I played sports in high school, and also was going to play at the University of Houston as a walk-on here in Houston, Texas, in the U.S. Unfortunately for me, I was taking my brother to a dialysis appointment, and we got T-boned while I was driving, and ended up getting hit in such a way that the doctor said that if I took a wrong hit in football and playing quarterback, it was on my left side, I was a right-hand quarterback, that I could end up being paralyzed. So I gave up sports at that point. and then, like a lot of people, life takes over. You're working, you get married, you have kids, you focused on raising your kids, you focus on providing. And next thing you know, you wake up and you scheduling your prostate exam at the age of 40 to get checked out. And my doctor tells me that everything is good except for the fact that I need to lose 40 pounds or it was going to lose me.
Oh, wow.
And I hadn't played sports in decades, so it was kind of hard to get involved at that point in time. And I remember trying to go out and, having a mind of sports, decades before. I'm like, I know what I need to do to work out, but didn't have any kind of motivation, didn't have the energy. I was nearly 400 pounds.
Wow.
And I just remember crying out to God and like, Lord, I need your help. And the next thing you know, my truck broke down and my engine was no good. And that's when the gas prices around the world was skyrocketing. So I didn't want to get a new engine at that time, and nor did I want to buy a new vehicle at that time. And so what I ended up doing was moving closer to work. I was about 17 miles away from work. I ended up moving closer to work, where I was 2 miles away from work, to where I would have to walk to work in the morning for 30 minutes and walk home, plus whatever I did on my job. And then eventually that walking turned into trying to run to work for 15 minutes and run home from work for 15 minutes. And 15 minutes ended up turning into 20 and 25, 30, 35, 40. Next thing you know, I was playing hide and go seek with myself. And I worked up until I was running an hour, literally. And then after an hour, I tried to run an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 20, hour and 30, till I got up to 2 hours.
Building up
slowly,
which a lot of people
increments.
don't do. They kind of throw themselves into it.
Yeah. And I got up to where I was doing 2 hours. And then I said, well, I'm going to do 2 hours and 15 minutes, worked up till I could run 2 hours and 15 minutes. And then I went to 30, then 45 till I was at 3 hours. And then when I was at 3 hours, it was just so relaxing. It was so therapeutic. I looked forward to it. I was in big box retail management, so a very, very stressful job. We had 100 and probably about 88 employees and customers, contractors, organizations, whatever. It was a very stressful job. So I really began to look forward to getting off work, jumping in the shower, throwing on my running clothes, and just going to get lost in the trails and relaxing, meditating, praying, and just having my alone time with God and just alone with my own thoughts. Grew up in a big family, worked in retail, was rarely alone with my own thoughts. So that was very therapeutic. The first 2 months, once I literally got to running, the first 2 months I lost 40 pounds.
Wow.
And in the first year, I ended up losing 100 pounds the first year. And then the next 4 years, in total, I lost an additional 78 pounds. So I lost in 5 years, 178 pounds, which is like losing a body.
That's a serious amount of weight, isn't it? And I think it's fantastic the way you built it up. And it sounds to where you are in the story now, you're pretty much running the time that it takes to run a marathon, aren't you? Just by starting off from walking 2 miles a day.
Yes. And it was, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, the physiological, the mental well-being of my life just took a turn for the best. I started eating better. I began to look at my mental aspect of it as I was an emotional eater. So stress, emotions. I was eating Bluebell ice cream with a pack of king-size M&Ms and washing it down with a bottle of Mountain Dew Cold Red every night. That was my comfort. That was what I did to go to sleep. And you think about eating a pint of Bluebell ice cream in Texas and king-size M&Ms, washing it down with a liter of Mountain Dew Cold Red. You do that about 5-6 times a week. No wonder I was about 400 pounds. And so my weight on the index, I was supposed to be like around 215. And so I was carrying a ton of weight on myself. And so I began to dig into the emotional part of why am I eating like this? So I had to go back and I had to deal with my trauma from childhood. I had to deal with my daddy wound, not having my father in my life. I had to deal with not being accepted by my mom. And it was just a lot of stuff. And so I taught myself early to protect myself, I would get loud, and to comfort myself, I would eat.
Yeah. And it's incredibly brave to go back and look at those things, because I guess in a lot of cases it's easier just to keep moving forward, isn't it? And not to go. How did you go about delving into some of those things? Was it sort of thinking about some of those things? Was it going into therapy? How did you revisit those?
So apart from the Lord saving me back in 1996, I was reading the Bible, I was studying the Word of God, but more importantly, at this particular point, I went to the College of Biblical Studies here in Houston, and I took a course on biblical counseling.
Okay.
And so I took that course, and it just opened my eyes up to a lot of stuff I was facing. And it challenged me to face the demons, to pull the skeletons out my closet, to slay my dragons. And it was a lot of work, and it was scary as an individual. I'm 6'3". I was almost 400 pounds. I'm a big guy. I'm a man's man, and to have to look in the mirror at myself on a deeper level, it was very scary. To be vulnerable, to cry, to heal. I literally had to give myself permission. It's okay for you to heal. It's okay for you to cry. It's okay for you to ask for help. And so that's where it all began. But eventually, I would get with my pastor at my church and the elders, and we had a counseling ministry at the church. And so I would go to the conferences that we had at our church. And I just spent the time during that next 5 years doing a lot of work on myself, getting healthy, because what I did not want to do is, what happens if I can't run anymore? What happens if I can't spend that time out there like that?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I was taking care of the symptoms, but I wasn't attacking the source. And so running, I would hear people say that running is my therapy, or the gym is my therapy, or lifting weights or cycling, whatever is my therapy. And I ended up adopting that, saying running was my therapy. And then I said, hold on, running isn't my therapy. It's therapeutic, but it's not my therapy. And so I began to challenge my friends and people in my sphere of influence. Hey, that's not your therapy. It's therapeutic. It helps you deal with the symptoms.
Yeah.
It's not the source of what causes the symptoms that encourage you to go out and do what you're doing. And I had friends that had eating disorders. I had friends that were suicidal. I had friends. And so they would throw themselves into running, doing triathlons, cycling with the MS 150, and doing all these extreme things because it helped with the symptoms, but they never faced why they were feeling the way that they were, or why they were suicidal, or why they were in such deep depression. And so for me, it was like, if I'm going to be able to help anybody, I got to be able to help myself first of all.
Yeah.
And so what I did is, and I use this metaphor. Well, it's not really a metaphor. I mean, if anybody flies, everybody experiences. They tell you that if you're traveling with a small child or an elderly person and you lose cabin pressure, the mask's going to drop, and they tell you, put the mask on yourself first and then help the loved ones you're with. Because if you try to put the mask on your loved ones first and they're fighting and you don't get the mask on them and you pass out and they pass out, then everybody can suffocate and die. But if you put it on yourself first and they pass out, then you can still put it on them to help them. And so that was my mentality. Let me help myself first so that I'll know how to help others. Yeah. And so that's what I began to do, and challenge my friends and my sphere of influence that, hey, it's therapeutic. You got to get therapy for why you're doing what you're doing. And most of my friends, they didn't know why. And so I would challenge them. And I've literally had friends that would stop talking to me.
Well, I was going to ask you that, because it's great to get extra insight, isn't it? But I guess not everybody reacts well to that.
No, but I've had friends that have reached back out to me years later and say, you know what? Thank you. I didn't appreciate what you were saying to me at the time, and it didn't feel good, and I didn't want to hear it. But it was like a gnawing on them. It wouldn't leave them alone. And they thought getting rid of me, not coming around me, not going to work out with me or run with me, was just going to pass by it. But it didn't. So they would do the homework later and get the help later. And then they come back and tell me, thank you. I really appreciate it. Even if it's just a message or a text message.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it is that, isn't it? It's giving the message, but the message has got to land at the right time. And sometimes it needs to germinate with people a little bit.
Yes. And so for me, I thank God, because even though I was thinking that at that moment, I really wasn't, like seeing the necessity of it. However, for me, I was so far into running and honing in and the trail running and everything, to where my friends started saying, hey, man, you need to start, you need to do this professionally. And so you know how it is when you're working out with your buddies and your friends and everybody blows smoke and everybody like, yeah, you doing good, because you're helping people. And you're running and you're doing well. And so at first I was like, yeah, if you were just, saying that to make me feel good, I appreciate it. Thank you. But it wasn't until I started having professional athletes reach out to me and say, hey, man, have you ever thought about actually being an ultra marathoner professionally competing? That I really started okay, taking notice and what is going on with this? And then one day I was at church and my pastor asked me, he said, big man. And that's what he called me, big man. He said, big man, you ever thought about running professionally?
So it's getting serious now. It's not just a bit of
I
fun
said,
after
it's
work.
getting serious. God didn't got involved. And I said, I hear you, God. And he said, I have a friend of mine that is a professional running coach. And he said, he does the fitness at Fort Bend Fit out in Sugar Land, Texas, in Houston, outside of Houston here in the U.S. And he says, I always share with him about your journey and stuff and this and that and your times. And he asked me, had you ever thought about turning professional? And I told him I would talk to you. And if you're willing to talk to him, I can set y'all up a meeting. And I was like, sure. And so I go talk to this guy, and he's since passed through the whole situation with COVID. It was very difficult for him. But he's since passed, and his name was Andy Stewart. And he owned a store called Finish Line Sports in Sugar Land, Texas. And he coached from the kids up to professional runners. Mm-hmm. And we talked, and he explained to me the ultra trail running circuit and the competition. And if I do well, how I could make a good living and get endorsement deals. And I was like, and I can do all this by doing something that I enjoyed, that, because retail management, if you ever worked retail, especially big box retail management, man, it's not something you want to find yourself having a career in for the rest of your life. Yeah. And so I was excited, and here I am, man. I got a coach. I signed up for the Brazos Bend 100 with trail running over Texas.
What kind of age were you when this started?
Sir?
What kind of age were you when you started getting into the ultra marathon running?
So I was 44 when we were talking about it. I had a birthday coming up. It was going to be 45. I signed up for the Brazos Bend 100. I was going to do the 50 miler. I was going to compete. The coach wanted me to just, he said, see how you can keep up with the professional runners. Yeah. And I said, keep up with them. I said, I'm going to beat them. What you talking about? I'm competitive, right? I am competitive. And so I was like, I'm just going to, I said, I'm going to keep them within a quarter mile view. I don't want them to feel threatened. I want them, to get lazy on me and feel comfortable in their run. And I said, but that last lap, I'm going to take them. And I said, I'm going to win this thing. And that was my goal. And so the very thing that I was encouraging other people to do as far as dealing with the source of why you were where you were would come back to be a benefit for me. Because 2 weeks before the benchmark run for my professional career, I went through a workplace shooting where I was shot several times, saving my coworkers' lives. Wow. And that changed my whole life. Literally.
Well, I imagine. Yeah. And what was that? Was that a robbery? What happened?
It was a workplace shooting.
So another employee shooting people.
Yeah, other employees, and it became a living nightmare.
Wow.
For several years, the situation.
So this was just a few weeks before the first race.
Yes, 2 weeks before my benchmark run. Literally 2 weeks, 13 days to be exact.
Wow.
And I would go on to still do the run. Had to have surgery, but I talked to the surgeon and he said the bullets wouldn't do any more damage than they had did. And he just said, it just depends on your threshold of pain.
So
And
running
I
with
said,
the bullets still inside you?
Yeah. And so I said, well, I have a high threshold for pain.
Apparently so. Yeah, apparently
I
so.
said, so I should be good. But to be honest with you, the pain and the stress of what I went through, the PTSD, the sleep deprivation, because I didn't sleep for the first 10 days. I couldn't even close my eyes to try to sleep because I was hallucinating. I had so much trauma going on with me that I'd never experienced in my life. And all I knew for me was running was a place to help me.
Yeah.
So I looked forward to doing the race, but around mile 35, probably just before then, I started falling. It was pretty much a flat race in the trails. It was very non-technical, fast course. And I was falling and didn't realize that the pain from the bullet and everything sending signals to my brain. My legs were giving out on me. And I remember a guy running up to me saying, "Hey, you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then I fell a couple of more times. He came back up and I said, "Well, I just tripped over something." And then we were on this one part of this course where it was just like sandy rocks, just very fine gravel. I mean, just flat as can be. And I fell again. And he came up to me. He said, "Don't tell me you tripped over that little pebble." And I looked at him and he said, I'm a EMT from San Antonio, Texas. And he said, "Something's going on with you." He said, "What is it?" And I explained to him what I went through and what I'm running with. Yeah. And so he encouraged me. He said, "Walk for a while and let your body rest for a moment. Walk for a while and see what you can do." And so that's what I'm trying to do. And I get to running again, but the stress of everything coming down on me. About mile 40, I started experiencing vertigo. And I don't know if you ever had vertigo.
No, but I've heard people who've had it and it's really struggled, yeah. Yeah,
so equilibrium between your ears, that's how we don't experience the earth rotating the way it is. Yeah. Gravity, us going thousands of miles in space, flying around, and the gravitational pull of the sun, the moon, all that. We have the equilibrium between our ears. And so when you get vertigo, that is thrown out of whack. Yeah. So if you ever see in NASA or any space program where they're trying to spin them out of control in these chairs and these chambers, that's what they're trying to induce with them, so that their orientation, that in that field, that they can try to orientate themselves. And your sense of gravity becomes super strong, where it pulls you down like a magnet, and you're spinning around. Everything is spinning. You don't know what's upside. You don't know what's from the right side up to the upside down. And you get nauseous as well.
Yeah, so it must have been quite terrifying for you. Were you able to make a connection in that moment of what was happening, or was it all sort of happening too fast?
It was just happening too fast. It was like me being thrown out of a plane without a parachute and somebody yelling at me, "Swim, swim." It was useless. And so when I got the vertigo, I was trying to run. I was running in circles, falling down. And so one of the course marshals came and helped me up and put me over in this gazebo to sit on this bench. Because at the Brazos Bend State Park in Texas, they have alligators. So he was like, man, you don't want to lay down on that ground and become gator food.
Just add that to the mix, yeah.
Yeah. So helped me sit up and stuff. And he's like, what's going on? And I was like, I got vertigo. And he was like, that's it. I was at mile 40. I only had 10 more miles to do. I was like, man, let me knock these 10 miles out. And it's in that, give me a second. He was like, nah, you're going to end up hurting yourself or an alligator going to eat you. You know, so they called for a cart to come get me. And at that moment, I realized how bad it was. And I didn't think it could get any worse, but it would definitely get worse for me.
And when you say it would get worse that day, or we're talking sort of in the future there on in?
In the future, over the next 5 to 7 years. Unfortunate for me, the company I worked for is a multi-billion-dollar a year company with over 350,000 employees worldwide. And they pretty much unleashed a smear campaign on me as though I was the one that did everything. Like I shot myself and shot other people. And it was, I really thought I was being punked. I was waiting for the cameras to jump out and somebody to say, hey, we slipped you a Mickey and we did all this stuff to make you think. It was a living nightmare.
Yeah,
I
so
never,
not just contending with the PTSD, but then you're trying to justify your existence and your innocence.
You're hallucinating. I had sleep deprivation for almost 7.5 years. Anxiety, depression. I would have crying spells that last 2 to 4 hours uncontrollably. I would be in public eating and they would happen. And it was just embarrassing. I would get triggered with the PTSD and I would be hiding up under sinks in public places and restrooms. They would have to call the police to get me out. Ambulances. I mean, living it was vivid. I literally, at one point, I called my psychologist and psychiatrist and told them that I think that they should have me committed.
Wow.
Because I told them I don't know if I'm even talking to you right now. That's what I would tell them. I don't, I'm losing touch. Yeah. I said I was losing touch on reality from hallucination to the sleep deprivation was terrible. And on top of that, I was dealing with the company, trying to protect their image. They went so far as to say that I lied about being shot. It was terrible, man.
Yeah.
I remember when the detective came up to the hospital to interview me, the responding detective from the homicide division of the Houston Police Department.
So this is after the initial incident?
Yes. Yeah. He called me a hero. He said, you are a hero. He said, I talked to several of your coworkers and you saved more lives than you realized. He said 3 of my coworkers told him they knew for certain that had I not did what I did to save their lives, they would have been dead. He said, your company should be proud to have someone like you working for them. They should celebrate you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it sounds like you got punished for doing the things that you did.
Yeah, they smeared me.
What was their motivation? Did you get a sense of why they were doing that?
Your guess is as good as mine. The only thing I can go off of is what I experienced, what I knew to be true. And for me, they were more concerned about their reputation and their stocks. And whatever else was involved with the people that they knew did what they did. I mean, they went so far as to throw their power, their weight, and their money around to where the case didn't even make it to trial. It wasn't even prosecuted. Yeah, and they knew who did it. The police knew who did it, but the company didn't want anything done because they didn't want to be in the news. They didn't want the publicity.
Right.
And so it was swept up under the rug, and I was attacked. I was made to look like the bad person. They literally gave doctored evidence to other lawyers and people to say that I was not shot, to prove to their statement that I was not shot, which was totally contradicting the evidence of what happened, and the fact that I had to have surgery to remove bullets, and the fact that there were witnesses, and the fact that it was on camera.
Yeah,
I mean, they did a sweeping cover up.
Yeah, so that just, I guess, adds to the challenges that you were having, and the whole time, this 5 to 7 year period when you were struggling with PTSD. What was happening with sort of everyday things and your running? Was you running on hold during that period, or were you still keeping that going? Well,
my running dropped like the Dow index on Black Friday or back in 1920. It went downhill. It went downhill gradually at first.
Yeah.
I have progressive muscle weakness in my right glute.
Right. So this is you on the cusp of the big time, and then suddenly all of that being taken away from you.
Yeah. And I still have a bullet in my right gluteus maximus that if they took it out, I wouldn't even be able to walk without assistance. And so I made the decision to leave it in. My surgeon said that my leg would progressively get weaker.
Yeah.
That at some point in my life that I will need assistance for walking. But I said I would rather it happen gradually than all at once.
Yeah.
So it went downhill. I mean, I was pacing marathons just for conditioning. I was doing marathons at 2:55, 2 hours and 55 minutes up to 4 hours and 10 minutes. And in the technical trail, I did a half marathon in 89 minutes. That's moving. But it dropped down to where I did the London Marathon and I was just going to take it easy. I was doing the Abbott World Majors, the 6 stars, and I was just going to take it easy. I was like, I'm going to do this in 4.5 hours. That was taking it easy. Yeah. And so I said, the first half I'll do in 2.5 hours, and then I'll do the second half in 2 hours.
Yeah.
It ended up taking me nearly 7 hours. The first half, I did it in 2.5 hours. My glutes stopped firing, and it took me 4 hours just to walk the second half of the London Marathon. And it didn't get any better from that.
And I guess that must have been absolutely demoralizing for you, given where you'd been not all that long before.
Well, not only demoralizing, I had it snatched away. This friend of mine said that I was experiencing runner's depression. And I just didn't understand it at first. But, getting the mental help I needed, I came to realize that, as a runner, you experience that runner's high so much that when that's snatched away from you like that, your body goes into withdrawal pretty much, and you get depressed.
Yeah.
And so on top of what I was going through, I ended up having runner's depression. And then the nail in the coffin for me was my weight gain was coming back.
Okay. Okay.
I knew that it was going to come back somewhat because I wasn't running as actively as I was before. So I was expecting 20 to 30 pounds. But I eventually ended up out of the 178 pounds I lost, I eventually ended up gaining back 119 pounds.
Wow. So most of it being put back up.
So then when I went back to the 300 club, because I went from 219, I was 219 at the shooting, and I got up to close to 300. When I got over 300, I was just depressed all over again.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And then it kept climbing, and I topped off at 329 pounds.
Right.
Now, when I started this journey, I was at 394. So I was like from 329 to 394, and that's nothing. That's easily. And I was like, I promised myself I would never get this big again.
Yeah.
And so here I am battling with sleep deprivation, which is putting a lot of belly fat on me, a lot of fat around my organs and everything, my fatty liver, cholesterol level going up. I mean, I'm experiencing everything again. Now, let's rewind, if you will. Remember, I was telling you about running was therapeutic, but it wasn't therapy. So now, not only am I dealing with all this depression, sleep deprivation, hallucinations, PTSD, triggers, and everything else, but I'm also dealing with my emotional eating.
Yeah.
So now I'm back to the source of why I was the weight that I was.
Yeah.
Now, I was not the weight that I was before. The weight wasn't coming back because I was emotionally eating, but because of everything that happened, and I'm at 329, now I find myself looking for comfort foods because I don't have anything else to turn to. And I refused to do alcohol, drugs. I'm like, I'm not running to that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I wasn't able to run. And I was like, it's time to fight. It's time to get your life back. And so pretty much in 2020, I decided I was going to go on this quest to do 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 weeks. And I was going to be raising $50,000 for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. And the reason why I was going to do all this is because I needed to get hope back in humanity. So I wanted to focus on those who were less fortunate than myself, which is the elderly and children. So I was like, I'm going to focus on the children because the children are suffering with pain that they can't control. And I couldn't control mine. And they don't have an option to say, hey, let me take a break from this pain. And so I wanted some motivation to where I wouldn't be so much concerned with woe is me, but that I would be concerned about somebody else's plight more than my own.
That's so important. I've seen that so many times with people. When you focus on the needs of other people, your situation becomes more and more tolerable. So it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I was giving the very thing I needed, and I didn't have much of it, even though I needed a lot of it.
Yeah.
And then also I wanted to do the 50 state challenge because people was like, why didn't you do it virtual? Well, I wanted to do the 50 state challenge because it made me get out of the I thought I was in a cave, but I was actually buried under a mountain. But I had to get up, get out, and I had to travel, and I had to get involved with dealing with other people instead of being isolated in this depressive modes. And so that's why I was going to do the traveling.
Yeah.
And then the 50 weeks, I wanted to do it in 1 year because I had to get my life back. I didn't have time. This couldn't be a 5-year plan. It couldn't be a 3-year plan.
Yeah.
It couldn't even be a 2-year plan. I was desperate.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, here comes COVID. So in 2020, it shut everything down. So for a year and a half, I had to wait, which made it even worse because my right leg was getting weaker. And I wasn't able to work out, and I was steady gaining weight. So all this stuff was happening gradually at first, and then it fell off the cliff.
Yeah.
And I was free falling.
Yeah. So you had your plan of how you were going to get out of this, but you were being held back.
Yes, being held back by the world pandemic. So not only was I experiencing my own personal pandemic, trauma, tragedy, but I was also thrown into the world's pandemic. And my doctors were worried about me. People were concerned about me because over here in the U.S., I mean, people were committing suicide. They couldn't take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here I am. And I told my doctors, I was like, this is what I've been doing for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, so it's not bothering me.
Yeah.
I said, what's bothering me is that I can't get my life back. And so when things opened up, I had a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D because races were canceled at the last minute, the week of, 2 weeks before, whatever. And I was like, I'm going for this.
Yeah.
And then I would get places and get stuck because there were no planes, no crews, no pilots.
So you had to be pretty resilient if you weren't already. Yeah.
Yeah. And then on top of that, I would show up to places. When I started it, it was in January, so it was cold. And so I would show up, like one of the first races I went to was go short, go long, go very long. It's an ultra race in Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I go to check in my hotel and they say, oh, we're sold out. And I'm like, I got a reservation. What you mean? Well, we're overbooked. And so we don't have any room. And I was like, I said, I just crashed down here in the lobby, just what, and the guy was like, no, because of COVID, we can't have anybody in our lobbies. I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, dude, it's like
just
20 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm sorry. And so they told me I had to leave. The security told me I had to leave. And so I said to myself, if I'm going to have to sleep outside, because I couldn't find anywhere else to sleep, everything was full. If I'm going to sleep outside and die and freeze, then I'm going to make sure somebody find me. So what I ended up doing, I drove to the start line at a park where the race was going to be. They had the gates up. You couldn't go in. So I parked right there in front of the gate. So people would have to wake me up. And if I died freezing in the cold, then at least they would find my body. That was my thinking.
Wow.
But I was desperate.
Yeah.
I was desperate. I wanted it more than food.
And it sounds like you needed it as your redemption to get out of your situation.
Yes. And so I was, like I said, man, so in 2021 to 2022, that's when I did the quest. And the reason why I called it a quest is because what I planned in 2019 to do had morphed because of COVID.
Yeah.
And then as I was going, I would get stuck in places and couldn't get to my next race, or I got stuck in airports without planes, without pilots or crews. I mean, I was in Denver, Colorado in the airport. It was so packed, and that airport is huge, but it is so packed in there that people had cots. They made pallets and cots alone, and you would just walk past hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people laid out on the floor, and nobody could go anywhere.
Yeah. So I guess, with all those things stacked against you, it would have been a lot easier just to give up, wouldn't it? You didn't.
No. And nobody would have blamed me. I'd been through a living hell, going through a pandemic, and experiencing, because I'm still experiencing sleep deprivation at this time.
Yeah. Yeah. Which makes everything more difficult straight away, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's so serious that I didn't know this. I didn't know you can die from lack of sleep. So my insurance company was approving medication that was costing, like, for a month's supply was costing a couple of $1,000.
Right.
Because it was a life or death situation. And my psychiatrist was explaining it to me. And I was like, hold on, what? Mm-hmm. She's like, we got to if you don't get some sleep, you could literally die from not sleeping. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea. So I was like, yeah, I was literally fighting for my life.
Yeah. Yeah. And then doing these extreme races on top of all of that, which is all the more incredible.
So could you imagine, had I now dealt with the source of why I was 400 pounds, the emotional eating, the healing, and then to have to go back through this? If I didn't deal with that, I would have been at a place where I would have just started eating to comfort myself. Mm-hmm. And I would have easily shot over 400 pounds during this time. Mm-hmm. Now, fast forward back to now. Last year, February, I was 329 pounds. It gradually started going down. My weight after about 4 years started going down. Peaked at 329, started going back down gradually. It took me a while to get under 300. But in May of last year, at the end of May to I would say about August, I lost 40 pounds. By the end of the year, I lost another 20 pounds. So I'm 66 pounds down from 329. I am headed to the Tokyo Marathon in March, and I wanted to be 255. I'm going to get my 6-star with the Abbott World Major Marathon, and I was doing that as an act of kindness for a friend of mine who lost her brother to drunk driving, and to bring awareness to drinking and driving and the dangers of it, especially for graduating seniors of high school and college-age kids. And so I was doing that as an act of kindness. Now, I was supposed to do that the whole year in 2019, and I did 4 of the 6 world majors at the time, which was London, Berlin, Chicago, and New York, and then the world shut down. Yeah. So I had Boston and Tokyo to do. Well, I finally did Boston after 3 tries because of COVID, and then I went to Tokyo. But when I was in Tokyo 3 years ago, 2023, the month, 3 weeks leading up to the Tokyo Marathon, my weight shot up. I gained 25 pounds in under 3 weeks.
So what was happening there? Was that eating again, or?
No, that was just the sleep deprivation.
Right.
I was still experiencing it, and it had my weight just up and down and just all over the map. And so it felt like I was running with a dead body on my back. Mm-hmm. And so I got swept at the 11K mark, which is the 7-mile mark at the Tokyo Marathon, which is one of the hardest marathons to complete because they have 9 separate cutoffs. So if you're not at a certain point by a certain cutoff, you out. And you have 9 of them. That's unheard of with a race. Normally a race may have 1 if they have that. Mm-hmm. You might have 2, which like the Marine Corps in the US, just added a second one where they had two because they had 50,000 runners. So, but Tokyo has 9, including the finish line. Literally, if you don't cross the finish line in time, you could be coming down, you could be 10 feet away, and they will not let you finish to get your
That's
star.
harsh. Yeah.
Very harsh. And they're very, I mean, it is, they got these big buses lined up. It'd be like 3, 4, 5 of them just driving along the course, and you got to get on.
Yeah.
And if you don't get on and you're going to walk, then they come and they take your bib and everything so that you can't sneak back in a race. But so I had 78 seconds short of glory. That's what I call it. I failed 78 seconds. And had I not had that extra 25 pounds, I mean, I ran 7 miles nonstop without getting any water or anything. I knew where I had to get to.
Yeah. So close.
So now I'm going back and I'm running for charity. All the runs that I did for the Abbott World Majors, I did for charity. Because again, I wanted to focus on other people and not fall into that woe is me, not feel sorry for myself. You know, I've had people tell me, man, you can give up, man. Ain't nobody gonna trip. You've been through a lot, man. You've accomplished a lot. You've done a lot, you know. But this race for me is not about anybody else but me and what I know I need to do. And so me getting back to running and serving the global running community is where I find my purpose, where I find my reason to get up every morning, where I find my reason to push through. Because when you're depressed, I tell people all the time, get outside, get in the sun. That's what I did. I baked in the sun. People kept telling me, man, you getting too dark. Man, I didn't care less. I'm fighting depression. So I needed vitamin D, and I didn't need a pill. I needed the natural vitamin D. I needed my medicine. So, of course, I partnered with my doctors. I needed exercise. So I had my trainers. I did a lot of research, and I came to find there's medical research that proves the 2 greatest things for people that suffer with PTSD. Number 1, massage therapy. Not just getting massages, but people that know medical massage therapy that don't just learn how to do massages, but take their craft to another level and learn about the body, the pressure points. So massage therapy. And then the other one was running. Those 2 things help with PTSD and mental health more than anything. And what's sad is that even though there's medical evidence of that, insurance doesn't cover it. What they cover is you being on medicine for the rest of your life. Not getting healed, not being made whole.
Just masking over the symptoms, yeah.
Yeah, that's my goal. And so I've been battling, and I got to the point where I said, I am the CEO of my own health care. And I told the insurance companies, I don't work for y'all, y'all work for me. I put my plan together, and I told my doctors and my massage therapists, my physical trainers, I said, listen, this is my plan. This is what I'm doing. You may not believe in it, fine. If you don't, please exit stage left kindly. I won't be mad at you. I said, but this is my life, and nobody's going to fight for my life better than I am. Because after you get off work, you're going home. I got to live with this. And I was serious. And so I had one doctor that the company was making me see. He didn't want to be a part of it. And because the company wanted him to do something else. And I was like, no. And so the company I worked for, they sent me to 7 doctors to try to get doctors to say what they wanted them to say.
Yeah.
And the doctors wouldn't.
Yeah.
They wouldn't.
Yeah.
And they was like, this man is not fit for work. And he does not need to be working. And so my mental health and well-being was on the chopping block. The company just wanted to get rid of me and save face, but I was being cast out. I was being thrown out like a baby with the bathwater. And I knew that this is what they were trying to do. So I fought. And I am better because I fought.
Yeah. Where are you in terms of your recovery now, would you say?
So 7.5 to 8 years in is when I would say that I really turned the corner after the workplace shooting and the subsequent attacks from the company as a result of the guys not being prosecuted. They attempted to kill me 3 more times. The Houston Police Department Organized Crime Unit was part of that cover up. And I don't mind blasting them publicly because they're public servants. We pay tax dollars to be protected. And they literally would not, because the company was throwing its weight and its money and its political power around. And the DA's office never received charges, and they would say, well, the police didn't submit charges. And then I would ask the DA's office to investigate, and then they said that they wouldn't investigate. So everybody was throwing me under the bus. And these people were literally trying to kill me again, actively. Shot at me a second time, and nothing was being done. And so they felt emboldened to do what they were doing because they knew that they was not going to be prosecuted. So 7.5 to 8 years was the turnaround. And then on my way back to the U.S. from Tokyo in 23, mid-March is when I started sleeping regularly. Now, I don't get quality sleep a lot, but I at least go to sleep.
More than it was.
Yeah. Before I didn't sleep.
Yeah.
The first 10 days I didn't sleep at all. And I experienced sleep deprivation. So I would fall asleep maybe here and there, like for an hour, 30 minutes, stuff like that, out of pure exhaustion. But my body wouldn't stay asleep, even with medicine.
Yeah, it's fantastic that you feel you're turning the corner. It's an amazing story. I know I imagine it's been very harrowing for you at times, but I think it's a great inspiration to other people. We're just coming towards the end now. Any words that you'd like to give to other people as inspiration for them with anything they might be grappling with?
Yes, take ownership. Take ownership. If you're paying for something, you're paying for a service. You're the boss. Take ownership of your health. Take ownership of your well-being. Take ownership of your mental, your emotional, your spiritual, your physical, your physiological. Take ownership. Everybody else needs to be advising you, and you need to be making decisions. Because if you're going to allow other people to make the decisions for your health and well-being, then you're going to be going on their plan and not yours. And you have to live with yourself. They get to go home. You got to stay with yourself. So make sure that whatever decisions that are made, you can live with. Take ownership. The other thing I would say is make a plan. Put something together. Now, I know a lot of people, especially combat veterans, have taken my book and they've been very moved by it, and they've put their own quest together and the whole package with their mental health and their health care and everything. And they're addressing the source and not just the symptoms. and they're better for it. And I'm grateful for it. And I know a lot of other people that have been faced with mental health issues, but not just mental health issues. I tell people it's a preventative thing as well. If you can do something and you're doing it, make sure you also look at the preventative aspect of your health. Don't wait until you get into a situation to where you're desperate. That's no bueno, as we say here in Texas. That's no good. Preventative health care, mental care, emotional, learn how to communicate, learn conflict resolution, learn how to deal with stress. Don't wait until you get in a situation where you're desperate and nothing else matters and you have to live. Now, I was thrust into that, but I also learned that there's people that wait until they're in those situations that they knew that they should have did something and they just didn't. And now, because of what they're faced with, they're putting an urgency on their mental health and well-being, their physical and all that. So don't wait. Take preventative steps. And then finally, I would say this, and I know that this may not be for everybody, but I tell people, whether you have a pastor or a priest, whatever you do, that's, find solace in prayer. There's medical evidence of prayer. Now, personally, me, I pray to the one and only true God and Jesus Christ, whom he sent. He is my Savior and my Lord. But if you're going to pray, make sure you're praying as well. There's medical evidence that prayer helps people heal. And so I believe that my God is gracious enough to give healing as he sees fit. But whatever you do, take these 3 pieces of advice, take ownership, make a plan and pray and move forward. Don't sit, soak, and sour, and don't die without a fight.
Aaron, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been absolutely fascinating talking to you today. Thank you so much.
This is the business of thinking. Mastery doesn't end here. See you in the next episode.